Hi, I'm Christopher. I'm the Thoughtful Outsider, and I run all sorts of courses on Tantra, on various other things. I want to talk to you about brain plasticity and a stroke. I had one. I had a stroke, and I had a very personal experience of brain plasticity. On the 31st of December 2014, New Year's Eve, before last, I had a stroke. It was terrifying and fascinating. The fascination was useful, but I didn't notice the terror until months later. I'm still managing that, but at the time my brain and mind did what comes naturally. It protected me. I was paralyzed with my left hand, this one, and my left leg. There's a little spot just here that is still damaged, and I've seen it in MRIs. Fascinating stuff. It took me a month to learn to walk again after 2 weeks of paralysis. I was lucky. The stroke only affected a tiny part of my brain, very specifically those parts that control movement and proprioception. That's your ability to tell where your legs are and where your feet are in relation to each other, your sense of space. I sometimes call it proximity sense. And in my left leg and foot and my right arm and hand. It affected my shoulder to some extent. It turns out after a lot of testing that it did not affect my functions in the higher part of my brain. That is, where I make decisions, language, thinking, all of that sort of thing, my personality. And some of my friends regret the possibility that I could have improved my sense of humour and my intelligence. Haha. Anyway, there were many things about this that were lucky. My past experience involved in dance, yoga, martial arts, Alexander technique, meditation, Vipassana, mindfulness, and my fascination with brain, mind, and spirit, and physical experiences, meant that my recovery was miraculous, according to the doctors, and rehab staff. Even they were invoking the deity. At the time, I couldn't have said all of this. Later on, I realized that a lot of those experiences had helped me to know how to manage my brain when the time came. Later, about 3 months later, I started reading Norman Doidge's book on how the brain heals itself, and realized that my experience with Feldenkrais and Alexander technique had both helped me as well. Basically, I was used to learning new movements, to subtly understanding how my body interacted with itself, and that allowed me to quickly catch on to laying down new pathways in my brain to heal it and to get around the areas that were permanently damaged. The first level of paralysis came out of inflammation on my brain. Then the damage itself meant that I couldn't feel shape, so I could put my hand in my pocket and not feel the difference between keys and coins, or even the sensation of the hand, of the pocket itself, the cloth. It was really weird because I could feel the sensations of my skin, but not my muscles moving or the shape of my body. So I would do the downward facing dog in yoga, and I could feel my muscles working to hold me up on my right side, but not on my left side. I couldn't feel the shape of the posture on my left side, but I could feel it on my right side. Very bizarre. And when I was wearing a backpack, I could feel the weight of the backpack on my right shoulder, but not on my left shoulder. About 4 months after the incident, I was healed enough and I went on a 20k bushwalk by myself, which upset doctors, friends, and everybody else because they thought I was taking risks. But I had trust in myself and I needed the retreat. It was only 2 days, Actually, originally it was going to be 3 days, but I came back after 2 because I read myself properly. And for the whole 20 k's of walking, I could feel the weight of the backpack on my right shoulder, but not my left. So I felt like I was walking really crooked. And yet, when I looked at myself, no problem. I could see that the backpack was supporting me and that the weight was there. The muscles actually worked in response. When you felt the muscles with my right hand, could feel that the muscles changed shape when I put the backpack on, as they worked to hold it up. Now I have, luckily, complete use of my hand. And on my left side and my right side, I can feel the space that I occupy on that side, although it still feels tingly and buzzy. And this was made worse when the next New Year, the one just passed on 2015, I had 2 epileptic fits, a day apart. And they were targeted to my left hand and my left leg, just where the stroke had it. And talking to the neurologists, they tell me that I now have permanent brain damage in that part of my brain that controls the proprioception of my left side. I've managed to lay down new pathways around that damage, that by focusing, using Vipassana. I started using Vipassana by the time the doctor had finished examining me in the hospital, since I was already in the hospital when the operation, having an operation when I'd had the stroke. And I just had an amazing experience of starting to do Vipassana as soon as it was happening, soon as the stroke was happening, because I knew I needed to lay down those pathways that would go around where the damage was. So I had this fit on New Year, and it meant that my left hand went into seizure, my left leg and neck, all of the muscles went into seizure, and then I passed out. And it only happened on the left side. So this was really handy for me, because now, after 6 months of taking the tablets that they gave me to control the seizures, and slowly, sometimes forgetting to take them on a day or two, and then slowly realizing that maybe there was another way. Now, I would not recommend this to anyone else. This is mine. This is something I did for me, and I'm doing for me. I'm living with it. And I don't know how it would work with anyone else. Maybe Norman Doidge and the people that he worked with in the book that I talked about before, The Brain's Way of Healing, might have more information about it. And I'm going to talk to my neurologist and see how I can work with it. But I have stopped taking the pills. I've stopped taking the drugs that I use that were given to me to control the seizures. What I've done is that over a period of the 10 months, because this is now October, since I had the epileptic fits, gradually, very slowly, I have cut down the drugs, gone for a day or 2 or 3 without it, and then noticed what happened with my body. And sometimes initially the sensations would get really weird. I would have tingly sensations in my hand and my leg, and I'd start to feel some tension in there, and I would start to worry that I was going to have another stroke or another epileptic fit. And then I would focus my attention onto my right side and onto my right leg, and to looking and to hearing and to tasting. And these things take you to a different part of your brain. The lucky thing for me is that my epilepsy and the stroke are in a very small spot just here. And so by taking my attention to a different sensation, I can move myself away and live in a different part of my brain and change the experience that my brain is having of my mind. Or I don't know how they connect up. I think it's an emergent system myself, but that gets complicated and not relevant to here. And so I have found a number of times when I thought things were getting a little bit weird, my fingers were starting to go funky, and I've found that if I ate something, which may have to do with sugar levels in my blood, but it may also just be that it's a different part of my brain being activated by the taste buds. And then I look out of my eyes at the colours that I see around me, and that moves me back here. And then I start to do my right side, which moves me over here, and then the sensations come back to normal. And I still feel regularly these things. Now, in the literature, they call them auras, which is funny because I have a different meaning for auras, but auras predict that you're about to have an epileptic fit, and some people do see them in colour, colour fields around the body, and other people's body or their own, and some people, in my case, it's a kinesthetic, a feeling thing. And so I feel really strongly the sensations in my left side, and then I focus my attention. I do something balancing, like walking or riding a bike, or start to lean a bit to my right side and lift my left leg off the ground, or I send relaxing feelings into my left side with my so as I move away from the sympathetic system, which is the activating system of the body, into the parasympathetic system, which is the relaxing part of the body, the digest and rest part of the body. And so I am managing my brain, and therefore managing my epilepsy, and it turns out that the consequences of the stroke. So this is my story, and to let you know, I will do another post about my story soon, about further back into history. But that history that goes right back to when I was 13 has, and maybe even younger, about interests in feeling uncomfortable in my body, and then spending an enormous amount of time and energy from the time I was about 16 getting comfortable in my body, I think had a big effect on my experience of the stroke. Because in a way, the stroke gave me the sense, the physical reality of being uncomfortable in my body. And since I'd spent an enormous amount of time becoming comfortable in my body with dance and martial arts and yoga, all of these other things, meditation, vipassana, personal growth, and Reiki and psychotherapy and things, all of these things have come together to help me recover from my stroke in a way that has my hands and my legs all coordinated together again, and for me mostly to be healthy with some weird sensations still happening. Thank you. I will leave a link to the Amazon version of Norman Doidge's book down below, and to my website, and to the workshops that I teach on Tantra, personal development, and managing your brain below. Thank you.